Good morning, everybody. Great to see all of you in the room today. Thank you for the introduction, and indeed we'll talk about Security Champions. First, a short introduction about ourselves. My name is Robin van Loon. I have a background in software development and application security, and currently I'm working as an information security officer. I'm a huge application security enthusiast and have been involved as a team member of a member of OWASP for a long time. And for the last couple of years, I'm one of the project leaders for the OWASP Security Champions Guide project. It's great to be here today to talk more about Security Champions and our project, of course, together with Irfaan.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. So I'm the founder of the project. It was founded 3 years ago. I'm also one of the OWASP chapter leaders, one of the organizers of this conference over here, but also an experienced security executive, a CISO. But I like to think about that I've turned to the AppSec world. So I consider myself more an AppSec specialist and leader than an executive. And I'm very happy to share the platform today with Robin, because he's one of the people that got me excited about OWASP. Because I always found that, like folks like you, we need people like you to build a community. And Robin was always an inspiration for me to join OWASP and help the community. So we're going to talk about the Security Champions Guide. Now, before I do that, I just want raising of hands. How many of you work for a company currently that are running Security Champions programs? Wow, that's more than 50%. How many of you are Security Champions? Okay, I would say around like 25%. So I think this is a topic that probably most of you would be familiar with. I'm very happy with that to then share the content. So the structure of the presentation is we're going to stand still at why do we need Security Champions program. Like, we have a guide from OWASP that we have created for you and that we're still developing, of course. But the question is, why is that needed? And I do want to stand still at what is it that we're solving as a community by providing you this guide. We're going to talk about what the guide exists about. We have a manifesto, we have principles, we have artifacts, maturity model, and in the future much more. So each of these items, we will deep dive in it. So it will give you an idea, a better idea of how you can use the guide to your benefit to enhance your Security Champions program within your organization. And we're going to stand still as a project ourselves. What is next? What are we working on? And maybe if you want to contribute, how you can contribute in that as well. We're going to have time for question and answer as well. Okay? So, what is the problem that we're solving with what we call the Security Champions program? Well, there are a couple of them, and I've tried to summarize them. One is that there is limited security knowledge within development teams. And I don't mean this as an insult to developers at all, because God no, if we don't have developers, the world would stop running. It's as simple as that. But, okay, I'm getting a sign that I should be standing here. Thank you. So, but it is a fact that if you look at the development of information security, cybersecurity, it is already so hard for information security professionals to keep up with the ongoing growth of the threat landscape and the new developments within cybersecurity. It's already difficult for us as professionals. I think half of the room over here probably would be security professionals. And then we have developers that have to keep up even with the technology evaluation and evolution that's happening. We cannot expect all of them to all the time be completely aware of all the security good practices out there. I think, it's great if they will be there, but I don't believe that that's the case. So I see that as one of the challenges. The second challenge I see is there is a limited number of security professionals within security organizations, right? So we just had a question about, would it not be better to centralize some of the rule set, those kind of things. Now, we typically think about a security organization that might help the different development teams with what the security good practices are and how to implement that within the development lifecycle. But the hard reality is there are no enough security professionals out there. I mean, the latest studies shared that we have more than 4 million plus security gaps of vacancies that aren't being fulfilled on time. That's huge, and I believe that number will only grow. Now that number is a bit disputed, but I do believe there is a huge gap currently in the world of the number of security professionals we have that can help organizations, including development teams. And then another thing, even if we would have the number of security professionals to help within the development teams to do secure by design, for example, I do think that the pace at which we're developing code has increased enormously. So I don't think it has been ever this high of how much code we actually produce and push to production. It is at ever high, and especially with the development of AI, that's even more productive, if I can call it like that. And then finally, there is a limited motivation, but also security behavior to get security within the DevOps teams. And whatever reason is the underlying reason that exists for that, this is the consequence of that. Whether it's pressure from the product developers, from the product owners, from the business to ship features to production, whether it's not having enough time to actually solve technical debt, whether it's not having the right security knowledge and expertise to do it. Point is this, that there is a limited motivation and security behavior within the development teams. We can do better. Now, then the question arises, okay, how do you get the right security knowledge and behavior within the development teams? The answer is over there. One of the things one can do is establish an effective Security Champions program, which half of the room is aware of. They are doing that within their organization. So let's see whether we can convince the other half of the room, okay? Now, the solution is quite straightforward. When you have an effective Security Champions program, you'll have security embedded as a role within the team itself, the development team. So that means there is a more present security conscious within that team, maybe even a skilled person within that team, or more than just one person within that team. That's one thing. You'll have scalable solution of security across the different teams as well, right? So security solutions are being developed all the time, also within your organization. I'm pretty sure on that one. We're not standing still with solutions to help us protect and defend our technologies, our assets. Once you have security champions, they have a more fine print, I would say, tentacle within the security organization, on a centralized organization that's building the security solution. So it's an easier way of rolling out and understanding that these solutions exist within your app stack. On the job guidance for developer, that's clear. Like, you'll have one person that's really there within the team, as part of the team, that will help you embed the right security practice within your development. And last but not least, this is what we really want to get at, right? We want to have proactive identification and mitigation of security risks. That's the promise of having an effective Security Champions program. Now, a little bit about the project. So there is already a lot of material out there on Security Champions. So when we started 3 years ago, this is like 3 years ago when we started, and I'll give you guys a personal story about why I decided also to pick this up as a project within OWASP. So I was working at the ABN AMRO Bank, and I was the head of security engineering there, and I had more than 45 security engineers as part of my team helping the different development teams to do secure by design. We had more than 500 plus dev teams. And of course, these dev teams transformed to DevOps, but that didn't change the challenge I had. So even with 45 security engineers, we could not keep up with the demand from the different teams to do secure by design. So one of the brilliant engineers that we had within our team, Cheyenne Sir, she's also a founder of the project. She came with the idea, we need to do something with Security Champions program. So I was an enabling leader, so I said, please go ahead, whatever you need, go and do it. I didn't know that much. I didn't think about what value would bring for the bank. So 3 months afterwards, and I remember that day very vividly. If Thiago Tillis, he's one of our speakers later today as well, is here in the room, he would remember this day as well, because Thiago was invited to, inspire the security champions in that room why it is important to pick up the task or pick up the challenge of being a security champion. And I remember that day I opened the door and I saw almost like 65 security champions in the room. And I had a realizing moment at that time. I said, now I have, as a head of security engineering, I have 45 security engineers plus at least 65 security champions. That makes my arsenal of 110 security engineers for the bank. And that was just the beginning point. So that was for me the realization why I had to do this and give this back to the community as well. Now, again, a lot of material out there for security champions, mostly written by vendors that do application security testing. So think about the sneaks, we have some of these vendors out there here as well. Great material out there, but it's written by our ecosystem from the vendor's perspective. So this project, we really wanted to create a vendor neutral guide to do this. And it should be community driven. Of course, I had the experience, Cheyenne had the experience, Robin had the experience. We had more people that had the experience of how to build Security Champions program, what works, what doesn't work. But we really thought we're going to really create a community around it that will share best practices and develop the guide. The unique thing that we really have within the project itself is the maturity model, but also a rich set of artifacts. Now, what are these? So we thought some of the organizations have not even started with the Security Champions program. Some of them have started, but they are somewhere, I would say, stuck in the growth. Because we did a lot of interviews with a lot of organizations and we got that feedback from them. So we said, why do we not provide a set of artifacts, good practices that other companies have already implemented and use as something that's available for you if you want to implement a Security Champions program within your organization, or whether you want to grow it further. You might have already implemented, you want to grow it further. So think about, for example, what sort of training do you want to give your security champions? Here are 5 other companies that have provided trainings to their champions. These are examples of what the champions would like to be trained on, or what you should be considering training your champions on. So instead of you thinking about that as a lead or one of your security champions or somebody that's thinking about the program itself, you can get inspired by these 5 different companies that have done it 5 different ways. Now you just see what works the best for you and your organization. You can pick and choose. That doesn't mean it's copy and paste, but at least it will give you a head start. And the same applies for multiple other things that one can do for the Security Champions program, whether it's training, whether that's a business case to secure management support, whether that's a charter for the program, whether that's KPI. All those things are part of what we call the artifact set. The third thing that we're doing is we're building a maturity model, because we have seen that a lot of companies have started up the program, but are struggling with getting it to the next level. They're even struggling to get the value out of it. That doesn't mean it's not possible, but they're struggling. So we thought of, why not build a maturity model that will help guide the companies where they are at, and what other steps they can take to increase the maturity of their program and therefore deliver more value from the program's perspective to the organization. So that's one thing that we are really excited about sharing with the community soon as well. And now we're actually working on an interactive website as well. We already have a version live where that website will facilitate your process as somebody that's driving the program or is very heavily involved in the program as well. Okay, I want to improve securing management support or having more management buy-in to my program. These are some of the examples of artifacts that are used by other companies. The website itself will facilitate that. And we also think in the future, maybe doing the maturity assessment can be facilitated by the program. You can get benchmarks about how other organizations are doing compared to you, or you are doing that compared to other organizations. So that's a little bit of vision of the website itself. Now, very short, not long. Again, it's a very community-driven. These are the project leaders, and we are like bombarded with people across the globe that wants to help us. It's not only folks from Europe, but also from US. To give you some example, we have very experienced person over here, Bonnie. She has set up a security champion program and run it for more than, I would say, 5 years at Yahoo. And I would say, it's one of the most mature security champions programs I've seen. We have other people that work very closely with Isaka, with other streams within OWASP, but also non-OWASP. For example, how to build maturity models. We're bringing that knowledge. We're collaborating a lot with a lot of organizations that are not mentioned over here that are willing to test our maturity model, are willing to give us the feedback, but also providing us artifacts as we speak now. So it's really community driven. Then I'll hand it over to Robin.
Yes. Thank you very much, Irfaan, for setting the scene and also teasing what you can expect from our project. So now I also want to show you some of the content that we actually provide on our website and that you can use for starting your own program, as we saw, like for half of the room, or for the other half of the room when you want to improve your project, your program a bit more. For us, we started working on the manifesto, which is really the foundation of the project, and we are building on top of that. What we also wanted to make sure is when we are delivering features and content of our project, is that we deliver it quickly and that we don't wait until the end of times and then release the final product to you. We want the community to consume and give feedback on the content so that we can improve even more. Irfaan mentioned it is a community-driven project, so we want to rely on the expertise of the community. Of course, we have the experience as well in our own professional lives. We interviewed the security leaders, but we are also really looking for feedback and contribution from the application security community. And this is really the foundation, right? So for our project, this is what we're building on top of, and hopefully you can also build on this for your own Security Champions program. We also wanted it to look good, so this is the visual that you can find online for our manifesto. And what we did, we identified the 10 guiding principles that you can use to run a successful Security Champions program. And this should really inspire you to start or improve your own program here. And of course, we do realize that every organization is unique. So there's no silver bullet. Typically in security, there is no silver bullet, not one way of going ahead. So you have to look with your own perspective of the needs of your organization. What is the best match for me? And what can I do to improve in our organizations? And Irfaan already mentioned, we also are looking into providing more guidance, so I will show you that a little bit later. The 10 guiding principles, I won't cover all of them today, of course, but I just want to show you one of the examples and show you what you can expect from the principles that we provide you in our project. So let's dive in. So today I want to share the third principle. It's about securing management support. And what we do for every principle that you just saw is provide you the what, the why, and the how. So that's just basically the format that we're offering our content to you. So let's look at that example, secure management support, and cover the what, the why, and the how. So for us, it's really important to understand the what. So we're talking about making sure that your Security Champions program is recognized as a formalized program with a set purpose and that you have allocated resources. So this is about the principle 3. If we look at the why, we all know that running a Security Champions program or making sure that you embed security in your organization, it requires effort, it requires resources. So there's always this need for resources to run something like this. But of course, the people that are involved in your program, that are executing on these activities, they have other priorities as well. They are working in their own teams, they have their own deliverables, their own priorities, so you will be sure that conflicts will arise somewhere down the line. And when it comes to conflicts, then we see in practice that the formalized priorities, they win the battle for resources. So
recognizable, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think especially if you're working in security, then people will recognize the fight. So by formalizing your Security Champions program, you can really make sure that we have this focus, we have the reason for executing on these activities. And then your Security Champions, they can work on improving security. And we don't want them to be distracted, having to explain why they're working on something, having to go to escalations, etc. So that's why it really helps to have your program formalized within your organization. If we then look at the how, so how are we approaching this? Well, it's very important to identify the relevant stakeholders within your organization. And then you can really focus on them and their needs and build up your Security Champions business case. And if you have that in place, you of course have to present it to your management and make sure it gets formally approved. You have your proposal approved. You will get the allocated resources, and that will help you along the way. Let me see.
How many of you have a formalized program, like something that's approved and supported by management? Okay, I would say from the 25% of security engineers that I saw, around like 10% have a formalized program. Thank you.
Yeah, and having this in place, the 10 guiding principle is really for running a successful program. But you can also turn it around. You can say it's also about the pitfalls that you might have. Why might can you make your program more successful? Avoid these particular pitfalls that you can basically also get from our 10 principles. And this is just a summary, a recap of what you can find online. So I really invite you to go there and look at the full details. We will show the link at the end of the presentation, of course. But this should give you a global idea of what you can expect for each principle. Irfaan mentioned the artifacts. So they are really supporting our 10 principles. So I also want to show you an example here. We're talking about secure management support still. And as Irfaan mentioned, this is really your starting point. You can really start using this and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's a very efficient way of starting with working on this principle. You want to present, in this case, your business case to management. So you can use this template, look at the information. You will definitely make changes. You will make changes to the content, the house style, the themes, maybe move things around. But it really helps you to get started on this activity. And you might also want to use different formats. So if this doesn't work for you in your organization, use something else, maybe one-pagers, etc. And we really want to offer these different kind of artifacts for each principle. So if you can't find something online, then please reach out to us. And we want this to be community-driven. We want to use battle-proven artifacts. So ideally, you are delivering something to the community, to the project, by providing your own artifacts. But of course, if there's nothing there, or if you can't share something, reach out to us anyway, because we have a huge network, and we will definitely look for the new artifacts. And we really envision this, that it will grow and grow until we get like super a lot of content online. Yeah,
a few success stories. I really like that. People are actually excited donating their artifacts to us because they know how much the community will benefit from this. So I don't have raw data yet, but my expectation is that currently only 40% of the organizations that 40% of the organization that should have security champions, only 40% of them have security champions program. I expect that number to go up over time. So think about whatever you've created, you have successfully deployed in your organization. If you can think about giving that back to our community, then you're probably going to uplift at least 60% of the other organizations that still have to deploy the security champions program. So people are really excited about donating their artifacts to us.
Yeah. So I showed you the manifesto, the 10 guiding principles, the artifacts, but I also know from experience it can be quite hard to understand, okay, where can I start to build up my program? Or if you're running a program, how can I make it even more successful? So we were working on a maturity model. Part of our team is currently working on the maturity model, but we do want to give you a sneak preview today. Obviously, it's work in progress, so things might change here and there, but it should give you a good idea of what we have. So if we are looking at our maturity model that we're going to add to our project, it's based on three levels of maturity. We'll start with the foundational level. It's really about when you are establishing your Security Champions program and you're covering the basics within your organization. The next level is the mature level. This is where you are fully integrating your program in the organizational structure. And the last level, the advanced level, is all about continuously improving and making sure that you're optimizing your practices and that you really align with the organizational goals, the strategic goals. And this is the starting point for our maturity model. These are the levels, but we want to combine them with the other content that we provide with the project. So with the 10 guiding principles, so you will get something like this. So you will see on the vertical axis, you will find the levels, the maturity levels, and then on the horizontal axis, we will map all the 10 guiding principles that I showed before. And for each combination of the level and the principle, we will help you to, we will provide you activities that you can deploy to tackle basically the principles and then fine-tune your approach on your organization. Because again, every organization is different. Also maturity levels will differ. So you are really in the lead here to understand, okay, what can I do? What is the best approach for me? Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, please.
So before this all can start, right, I need to have a actionable. So maybe you have a kind of a financial blueprint to implement this, for example, in an organization with like 20 teams or so. Do you have some kind of a document for that or guidelines to convince my manager to actually invest in this program? Because in the end, it's all about money, right? It costs money, but you get security right.
I can take that. I mean, that's secure management support. That's the principle, secure management support. So the example that we showed in the prior slide with the 50 slides or so, that's a business case that was presented to one of the financials within the world. So we are hoping to get more of these artifacts, and then it will be available to you. But if you have already done that, somebody in the room, and you think the dear gentleman over there can benefit from it, please think about donating that to the project. Our principle is that we don't want to create the artifacts ourselves as a project team. Right? Only emergency cases we're going to do that. Our principle is to really reach out from the practice, people that have done it, it is proven, that's what we're going to include into our arsenal available to you. So we already have one for that. Please have a look at it, and there's more coming.
Yeah, thank you. Then it's a bottom-up approach, and we'll evaluate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And indeed, give us our feedback. So if something is missing, always let us know, because we can improve together as a community, and then it will only get better for the project itself. We were covering the secure management support, so I do want to highlight the example. So what can you expect? What kind of activities can you expect to find in the maturity model? So think about, we are in the foundational level, so we are working on establishing our program within the organization. So you probably want to start thinking about making sure that you have basic metrics in place. It can be very simple: the number of champions, the number of meetings with those champions, projects that are supported by your champions, etc., etc. You probably know best what works within your organization. In the foundational level, it might be that only part of your management is aware of your program, but you do want to have like consistent support. So typically you will have one of them being the driver or initiator or the main stakeholder of your program. That's typically something that you'll see in this level. The last part that I want to show today is about the collaboration with management. It can be that when you are establishing your program that you're dealing with one level below senior management. And you can imagine once it becomes more mature and it becomes bigger, you will probably climb in your hierarchy of your organization. And then you will be maturing to the other levels. This gives you an idea of what to expect. Again, we want the team to complete that this year, so we expect them to have a beta release available this year. And then, of course, we also want to start testing. So the planning right now is that in 2025, in Q1, we will have a selected number of companies that will test the maturity model, give their feedback, so that we can process their feedback and fine-tune before we release the complete model to the community. Yeah, that wraps up the example. So the principle 3, I hope it gave you a good idea of what you can expect. Definitely go online and find the other principles. I want to thank you from my end for your attention, but I'll hand it over to Irfaan for the closing.
He gives me the honor to close. So currently we have 7 companies in the pipeline that will test the model for us, the maturity model. We expect the model to be done by end of this year. I'm very confident on that one. A very hardworking team that's doing that. But think about companies in Australia, big banks in the Netherlands, but also large organizations in the US like Yahoo that will test the model and provide us feedback with that. This is not the end. This is not the end. Like think about any other OWASP project that you have seen. They have been there. The Flagmanships project, they have been there for a couple of years. So if you consider OWASP, for example, I know that Sebastian is over here together with the OWASP team. It has been there for a couple of years. So we do expect, once we have released the alpha version of the model, that it will be improved over time. We might go from a principle-based approach of the model towards more like a capability-based approach, right? So what do you have to do in terms of tooling to improve your Security Champions program? What do you have to do in terms of training? It's going to be probably focused on some capabilities as well. I'm super excited to go this journey together, but we need, in order for us to develop that program further, and the maturity model further, we need your support. You are the persons that can help us test it and give us feedback what works or what. Again, it's community driven, but we want to start releasing as soon as possible, because without that, we're not getting feedback. We're thinking in our own ivory tower, and that's one thing we don't want. That's one of the principles of Security Champions as well. Don't think about security in an ivory tower. Work together with the developers on that. So what's next? Please visit our website. There must be something interesting in there. Promote it as well to other people, folks that you feel they're thinking about the Security Champions program. They have not. I met an old relationship of mine today as well. He shared that with me, that they started the Security Champions program within their own organizations, taking the manifesto as a basis and work it down from there, what fits into their organization. It's beautiful to see those things, and I've a couple more of those examples. Please do supply artifacts as well. I'm pretty sure you have them. Half of this room over here is doing something with Security Champions, so you must have Security Champions artifacts. We have a list of like 15 of these artifacts that we're collecting. It's on the website. If you click on it, you'll find it, and then see if there's something of interest in you. If you feel that list is incomplete, still you can donate those artifacts to us, right? We're going to improve that list anyhow. If you want to be a volunteer to test our model, it's going to start in Q1. You can reach us through this LinkedIn page, and then you submit a message saying, "Hey, interesting. I want to, give you feedback on the model through my organization or to you individually." That would be perfect as well. We can do that as well. So that would be sort of a call of action for us, for you. What is next? And we're just getting started. Questions, please. I'll repeat the question if you... Oh, wait, Amit is running, so that's fine. More steps.
Hi, Irfaan. I have a question. How can you keep Security Champions motivated? Because we are asking them to do more, to spend their time on the things that may be not expected from them. And what we see in our company, that motivation is going away. People don't want to be Security Champions at some point.
Great question. Great question. So there are different things over here that you should consider. But the main thing is motivation. So how do you keep them motivated? And one thing that doesn't work well with motivation is if you tell them they have to do this. So the best practice over here, what I've seen, I'm not saying that you should not tell them, right? There's a method to every means, I would say. But the best, most sustainable results will be if you can create an environment where you try to empower them to take ownership of security. What does that actually mean? For example, I've seen those situations where an organization thinks about the policies and standards of information security and just pushes that to developers. How annoying is that? Like, I know I'm a developer myself in background. How annoying is that, right? Like you're being told what to do without not even understanding what's written over there. And even sometimes security folks don't understand what's written in the policies and the standards. So another way to do it is to have the Champions program co-create these standards together with you. Think about that. Think about having inspiration sessions for them. Think about organizing a security training for them. That's where your collaboration will help. So my most important tip over here would be try to create an environment where you inspire them and try to give them a good view of what the benefits are to them, to the security champions and the development teams, if they are security champions and active security champions. So for example, do they have a mandate to take security decisions? To what level is that? Like what sort of enablement can you make happen on that level as well? So I hope I've answered your question, but these are some of the directions and some of the good practice I've seen so far with other organizations that are doing this. Other questions?
One here.
Hari, yes.
Yeah. So how do you embolden and enable your security champions within the organization? I mean, it's not just about buying the stake with the business or the management support, but how do you help them work along this with their peers? Because we're identifying specific people within the organization who can act as champions. How do you expect to enable them to contribute or spread their ideas towards the peers?
Good. So how, I'll take an example, Hari. How are we doing this with this project as well? By being on stage, talking about it, trying to make things practical as well. This would be my suggestion. It will not happen by just saying, you have to be security champion. It will not work like that. One of the principles that we have is we say, it's part of Be Passionate About Security, by the way, if you click on that. We say the good practice is not to volunteer the security champions. Let them volunteer themselves. So now how do you get people to raise their hand and say, I want to do this? You have to show them the benefits. You have to show them that you're there together co-creating them. And it's not just an extension of the security department that want to get security done in the teams, and therefore they're making somebody responsible for that. I think it's still an option to do, but it's not a sustainable way of doing it. The best way to really get it done is to create an environment to inspire people. Get them in a training. Get people like Jim talking to them. Like get them inspired on the topic. So those things will actually help Hari. Another question. Yeah.
Yes, I would like to come back to the motivation question because I think it's a really good question. The way that I have seen security champions being burned out in the past is because all of a sudden, all of the security tasks are being dumped on them. Anything from fixing security tools to looking at vulnerability findings from pen test. My recommendation will be, based on your organization, rely on processes that existed before you created security champion. So if you have a business as usual that fixes bug, maybe they fix the issues with the tooling. From the pen test finding, for example, another thing that I have seen is to make sure that your pen test findings have all the information needed so that it's easy to reproduce, because sometimes pen testers will be really vague and it's a burnout on the developer side. So there are things that you can do to fix that internally as well.
Great addition. Great addition. I think this is you should consider joining our project, by the way. Great addition.
I think I will. It's very cool. Sorry.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. That's brilliantly put. And even if you don't have Security Champions program, I still advise to do those things, right? There's no point of sending a pen test report that nobody understands what is in there, right? So even if you have Security Champions, you do it. Even without your Security Champions, you try to do those things. But completely agree. Make it easier for them. Show the value of the time and sweat they're spending by owning that title of being a security champion, that you reward them for that. So it's over here. Reward them responsibly as well. I think it's very important. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and maybe to add on that, I think it's very tempting being a security champion. I've been one before. It's very tempting to indeed collect everything and try to do everything yourself, but you are the ambassador within your team. So it's not your role to do everything. It's there to spread the awareness, detect that there's something wrong in this example of the pen test, that it's not clear, it takes us a lot of time to reproduce, etc. And then, of course, together with your team, take care that you make sure that you pick up the activities and cover, in this case, the pen test findings. But definitely something to pay a lot of attention to and avoid burnout, especially of your precious security champions. Yeah, thanks.
We do
Absolutely.
have time for one more question.
One more question. Come on, you guys can do it. Yeah, there's a question over here.
Hi. Thank you for the presentation. It's really interesting. I think we can take some of these learnings for our companies. I think a nice thing to get everybody on board, from the Security Champions perspective to their teams, is talking about real cases that have happened in other companies, because we tend to think it's not happening to me, so why should I care? And if you start doing shots, maybe in the coffee machine or whatever, you have a great opportunity to, talk. Did you learn what happened in that XY company, and talk about what happened? Or maybe the trainings could be focused on the analyzing real use cases and get everybody to pitch in with questions, no matter how basic they think they are, just ask. And maybe this gets all developers on board to actually think about security first when they're designing.
Again, another person that should think about joining our program and our project. Amazing. No, this is exactly, and I have this example, multiple companies that I've helped. It's not even about security champions. Even if you want to get the IT development teams, the developers excited about security, they own the quality. It's not that they're shying away from the quality of their products, what they're developing. They're owning it. I have not found any developer that's shying away from that. The question is, how do you bring that knowledge in a non-boring, compliance-based way to them? So do hacking testing with them, do pen testing with them, do hackathons with them, do the hands-on training with them, be there. And I think, that's also another thing that I've seen that works very well. We have different sort of security people, and we need all of them, right? Whether those are more policy-driven, compliance sort of folks versus really ethical hacker, security analysts, SOC pen testers, those kind of folks. Everybody, we need them. But developers get most excited when, they speak to people that understand the technology, understand the challenges, and just doesn't say fix everything. It's so easy to say it, but it's very hard to do. So it also helps to put people forward as part of that program that can inspire them as a security professional. I do think those are very good remarks that you've made. Thank you so much. Okay, I think we're out of time, but great interaction. And we're going to close the session then.
Thank you so much.